It's like we're back in the studio. Los Angeles, 1997.
That's a good analogy.
Brett Gurwitz behind the controls.
This is Brett.
I don't need to tell the truth, but I never lie. I don't need to bow to you. You're just passing by. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I'll come back to you. Get inside my troubled mind with all of your threats. Sometimes I think I was blind, not before we met. I never wanted to be the one that you depend on for your life. When you cry, it smells like soup. Sound like shown tonight. Never feel how I said all night. I gotta ride. Each time I said all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all night. You're an evil little girl. I'm a twisted man, tearing through your perfect world. Make you understand. I never wanted to be the one you bitch and moan and come home to. But as long as you look good, I'll come back to you and do the things you do. Stay all night. I gotta ride. Each time I stay all night. No, I just might. You make me stay all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stay all night. I'm gonna stay all. I would never treat you bad. You deserve the best from me. If you want to keep your place, you better get down on yours.
Yeah, Todd wrote this one.
Yeah. You think?
This is not mine.
Stand all night, I gotta ride. Each time I stand all night, no, I just might. You make me stand all night. It's just that side of you tonight that makes me stand all night. I'm gonna stand all night.
Text the round
R.I.P. Todd.
questions, comments, wagers. Give us a reason. Sleeper fantasy play, your best alternative line, whatever you have. Text the round robin 757-354-5517.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, take us that star-spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
This is the Deep End Broadcasting Network.
You are tuned in to the Round Robin with Stephen Murray on Deep End Broadcasting.
Get me down off to these
The docile sounds of the Pie Tasters bring us into the round robin here on this Saturday, December the 27th, 2025. Our round robin NFL Saturday special, as we have two NFL football games on this cooler, blustier East Coast early winter day and late morning. Good morning, wherever you are around the world. Go ahead and comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear it. And a shorter slate when we have three games on Thursday, which makes tomorrow shorter with the two games today. And we'll do a full show tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Live. I see we have a ton of new viewers. So right off the bat, I'll get into what we're all about. I am Stephen Murray. I am a combined 65 years or so sports wagerer and a sports book maker on the management side of things. So for about 65 years of NFL combined experience, seeing bets on both sides of the window, I bring that perspective to this program. That's one. Two, I am a member of the media for just about 30 or so years now, several gigs. So that gives me the rights to actually entertain a news and information program such as this. And three, we're here to not mess around. We're here to make you money, hopefully. We're not necessarily giving you picks, trying to train you in different ways to think about things. But it never hurts to tail us either, as we've had a pretty good season overall, the Ant-Man in particular. But Dave Del Grande hot with his picks, and even myself surging as of late, and a winner on Christmas. How about that? How about the day where the bookmakers slaughtered the public just about on Christmas, ruined Christmas for all the gamblers for the most part? Think about it. We had two unders. We had three underdogs cover. We had one underdog win completely outright. So any teasers on Detroit were killed. And basically just a bloodbath. Biddy Parkinson from Idaho. Awesome. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Sleepy David, good morning to you as well. Tiffany, nice to see you under the sea. But nice. Tuned in from Idaho this morning with Benny. Welcome aboard. And as a lesson taught on this show from last Thursday, I mean, we said it on Thanksgiving. Does it hurt to take all the dogs on a day like that? Now, I myself kind of liked all the favorites, putting myself in the hands of the public eye and not really aligned with the side of the sports book. I did it in terms of alternate team points, but even I was just kind of I can't say I'm in shock, but just how poor Detroit just was overall. I mean, it was ghastly. And then just things like, where is CeeDee Lamb? Is he ever going to score? And we say that about a lot of these guys lately. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I mean, Gibbs didn't even have a good game. He had a terrible game. Goff, if you had him in fantasy, he cremated you. So just a complete bludgeoning on the side of the sports book, unless you tune into this program, in which we did give you some good picks. And if you put some of this together, then you had a good weekend. And we did. We cashed. We cashed already decently, and we're playing for a jackpot on a round robin on Sunday. How about that? So here it is. I mean, you can believe it or not. I can put up the ticket for you later. I know people, if people were to see this ticket, they would automatically accuse this of being fake. But this is a 5-player, one touchdown round robin. So one touchdown by each player is round robin together. One game has 2 players. So in essence, those 2 guys can't be part of a 3-game or a 4-game parlay. They're basically their own separate ticket with all the other players mentioned. So the players that I did were this. I've been a big Flournoy guy, if you've been listening to the show, and he was out. So who's naturally going to fill that void there? And I decided that since he runs back kicks, I'd go ahead and put Javante Turpin in there. Turpin scored the 86-yard bomb from Dax. So we checked the box there. The next game, we've been talking about him on a show for weeks. We liked him, and he's been doing good. He's been scoring and getting his yards. And that's Isaac Tesla with the Detroit Lions, the wide receiver. He's been basically the number 2 option for the most part, and we're getting a good number on him. All these guys are plus 300 or more on this round robin, and that's the gist of what we're doing, and I'll explain a little bit more about that if you're new to the show. But Tesla, we put him in that ticket, so he checks the box. Figuring that Jordan Addison was going to have a poor matchup in the secondary of the Lions, we took him for that angle because the guy for the Lions who was covering Addison is basically atrocious. Well, the quarterback couldn't get anything really done for Minnesota, Brosmer. So what do? They give a double reverse to Addison, and he runs it all the way down the sideline. One of the best dives for pylon that you'll ever see to make a touchdown count. I could have sworn he's going to go out at the 1-yard line and just kind of screw me there at the end. But sure enough, he dove, he got the pylon, and they gave him the touchdown. So we checked the box there. Now, we'll have 2 players left, and we haven't cashed anything because basically we have 1 ticket with 2 players and another ticket with 2 players, although we have a third and a fourth box to check. And again, we can't include Tesla and Addison on the same ticket. So, as mentioned on this show, why not a Bo Nix rushing touchdown? So I threw Bo Nix in there, and sure enough, he had that rushing touchdown. And that went ahead and checked the third box for a payout. We're going to guarantee ourselves a nice little small 4-digit winner. And now we have 1 to play for the jackpot. And thank you, Bo Nix, for taking matters into your own hands. In fact, you should have scored twice. He should have snuck it up the middle on that one play instead of rolling it out and giving it to Harvey. Even on the rollout, he might have been able to go and dive for the pylon himself. We'll settle for the 1 since he cashed that ticket, but almost a winner with 2 on Bo Nix. And our last player tomorrow, and I just told this to my boy Foley, who looked at me like I was crazy. Like, who the hell is this? But it's the wide receiver for the New England Patriots, Kyle Williams, who is the rookie who's been getting more attention from Drake May. He catches long touchdown passes. And in a game where, and I wasn't figuring this necessarily beforehand. I kind of was. Because I know Bootsy was injured. I know Demario Douglas was hurt. But now even add Mac Hollins to the pile. So Patriot receivers are wearing thin in this game against the Jets. And Kyle Williams should have ample opportunities to try to cash this ticket home, which will be at the end of the day, not quite, but a good portion of a 5-digit payout, we'll say. So we won, and we're sitting on deck with Kyle Williams to score 1. So that being said, we need to definitely learn a few things from what the games and the outcome on Thursday. And that is that some of these games have even less meaning now, like the game tonight with Green Bay. And there's no Jordan Love. We're in a backup quarterback situation there. The Ravens might not have Lamar. So how will that translate with Pittsburgh tomorrow if the Ravens do go down at Green Bay tonight? There's a lot of not quite ifs, ands, or buts, but I would not be greedy on a lot of the props here, or at least very, very, very smartly try to pick your spots going forward. We will try to turn this round robin that I did the other night, guys, just a $20 bet. So to turn $20 into almost 5 digits is going to be quite impressive. And that is basically what we do on this show. We take your minimum investment and we try to make it for the maximum outcome. Where props are light, there's an opportunity for team bets and totals for sure. That's the one thing about team totals and sides, like we've mentioned before on this show a million times. A prop player can kill your ticket dead in its tracks. A team or a total cannot. You're still chugging forward at least. And who knows? That's when the magic tends to happen. So unders, maybe not the best or worst strategy either, to be honest. Taking some unders on some props. I mean, Josh Jacobs, is he really going to play enough to rush for like 60 yards or wherever he's at tonight? Maybe he might. But I'd be willing to risk no, that he's not. In a game where he's been injured. We've seen it for the last few weeks. We've seen it with Barkley. We've seen it with Achane. We've seen it with Jacobs. It's not even a question of health. If there's a minor tweak, it's almost like you're out of there right now. I mean, you're not playing anymore in the game. You need these bodies for the playoffs. So betting unders and extreme overs. Betting overs and extreme overs, like, over 150 yards for Saquon Barkley is just not something you want to be doing. Will he get it? Maybe in the first and second quarter. But gosh, you see a scenario where he is just sitting down most of the second half. So it literally is buyer beware. Again, if your player gets on the field and you bet an under and they go ahead and take him out sometime in the second quarter or third quarter, your ticket's live. And then if he ain't coming back in, I mean, you can go ahead and check that box already. That's another old gambling rule of thumb that we've always had. The best bet on the board is what you're always looking for. And a lot of times that's the under. And in an under, that is a bet you are winning until you lose that bet. The under is the only bet that you can make in which you are a winner once the game is starting. Now you can end up losing, but you're already in the winning category. So think about that when it comes to betting unders and some of the things that we may talk about on this program, because I think both of these games apply. I'll tell you right now, I like both of the unders today. I mean, think about it, guys. The Christmas holiday, 3 underdogs, 2 unders. The public's been cremated. The public needs their money back. Do you think the sports books are going to try to give that up so easy this weekend? No. I bet you there's some more unders in store. We'll get some over games, and there'll be stuff out there to like. But best be sure they're going to try to get you to come up on the short end of the stick of things here. And especially big beware of Monday night. Monday night with the Rams and the Falcons, and the Rams laying 8.5 points in Atlanta. 8.5 points in Atlanta. When all the world is trying to win their back on Christmas night, or on Monday night, from all the way back to Christmas. A brutal 4 days of sports gambling on that person's part. And they have one game to bet from. The Rams and the Falcons. They're going to lay that 8.5 points, hoping that the Rams can beat the Falcons by a couple of scores. And what will happen? You know it right now that the Rams win that game by 7 points, right? Literally. And it's a loss. The over-under is 49.5, so count it, 28-21. Unless the Falcons coach goes for it for 2 when he's down 28-20, and they kick in the back door late in that game to screw you. So keep that kind of stuff in mind. You want to be on the side of the sports book this weekend from the rest of the weekend here on out. That's for sure. So avoid maybe the obvious, and let's try to attack things in a subtle approach. Be ready to bet some unders, and we will find some over stuff and some 2 touchdown scores and stuff, but we're going to do stuff that makes sense on a good calculated attack here this weekend. In fact, we should like this weekend because it really does narrow down our options on what we really, really do like, as opposed to other weekends when, any number of our diva wide receivers can't score 2 touchdowns out of nowhere. All right. So what we'll do, we'll go ahead and pipe in Dave Del Grande. We'll knock him off. We'll talk about the 2 games with him. He'll be back on tomorrow to talk the rest of the slate as well. We'll get into a couple little topics with him beforehand. We will get Nephew Dave on here. He'll probably join us from the Norfolk studio for a little bit. And I believe the Ant-Man is road tripping back from Pittsburgh, and he's going to be ready to chime in for a few minutes himself. So let's go ahead and pop up Dave Del Grande. This is our conversation. I believe we had some technical difficulties at first trying to get him involved here. But lots of storms across the country wreaking havoc on cell phone issues. But I think we're finally good.
Of course, wasn't my idea. I had to summon my daughter in to figure out what could possibly be going wrong here. Do I have the mute going on somehow? And she checked everything. No, everything looks fine. Looks like you're connecting. Let's just turn the phone off. And
well, the funny thing is, I always reboot the computer to get good audio. We've had 1 or 2 rare instances where at the end of the interview we start to sound like robots, and I've had to cut that audio. So that's the fail safe, is given the reboot. And of course, that didn't even cross my mind for your phone. I just kept calling. How did you have a good Christmas?
Oh yeah, great. Everything, it was rainy, but no, we weren't going anywhere anyway. So, hardly noticed.
Yeah, we were surprised, even with we had no idea. We figured it'd be a, mid 50s, upper 50s day, and it turned out to be 70 degrees outside.
Wow. Yeah, today's beautiful. It's been raining here pretty steadily for 3 or 4 days, but today's back to normal. But yeah, yesterday, even the cats didn't want to go outside yesterday.
All right, so you were stuck inside, so maybe this is the perfect question for you. Would you miss the NFL games if they disappeared on Christmas?
I'd rather watch NFL than NBA.
Yeah, me too.
Just in general.
Me too.
And so, when you get an opportunity on a holiday, what's unfortunate is you don't get flex scheduling
right
on Christmas. And so it was, the NBA games turned out to be great, but even they don't have flex scheduling. So while they have, decent matchups and it's early in the season, and when you get the Warriors playing and the Lakers playing and some teams like that, and even Cleveland to a lesser extent, where they're projected to have good seasons. Well, now if fast forward Christmas to like St. Patrick's Day, and now we're having that exact same schedule that we had yesterday, except at that point the Warriors are terrible, and LeBron's injured, and Cleveland is out of the playoff race. Well, then you get 3 terrible matchups. And so even though you tried to predict it, the farther down the line you go, the more potential there is to get a bad matchup. But I just think that was the NFL's problem. The NFL's got plenty of good matchups this weekend. It's just we didn't have any of them yesterday. Dallas and Washington, come on. You can't miss, by more than that. It's a traditional matchup and what have you, but no reason to watch that game really. And then even, Detroit and Minnesota, very fringe, playoff teams, and now, not even in the race anymore. And then you get the late game and no Mahomes in that game. It couldn't have been more of a disaster for the NFL. So, to answer your question, give me the NFL any day over the NFL in meaningful games in Week 17 over the NBA in nothing, means nothing games in December. That's my feeling.
I love Ian Eagle as a broadcaster, but he gets so excited at times, and you're looking at that stadium, and it's like 3/4 empty. I mean, there's not even the Cowboys fans there, and usually when Washington plays Dallas in that facility, it's at least 60-40. Somehow there are a lot of Cowboy fans here in Virginia and in the DC area, but that place was empty yesterday. And just hearing him get overly excited, like, I get it. I mean, it's a rivalry, but I mean, not even my juices were flowing. I didn't have a problem getting on the road to go do my family stuff. And then the Lions, obviously, they've had their injury issues, and I think that's compounded them again. And I think at the end of the day, that's just kind of what went wrong, is probably they ran out of bodies to compete with. And I think the night game turned out to be pretty decent, but embarrassing by Detroit, to say the least, on national TV. I don't know. I just wasn't overwhelmed by that early game. I thought the night game was entertaining.
Well, the night game in some ways was manufactured in the fact that, is this Kelsey's last game, last home game? And it would have been, unfortunately, and we talked about this earlier on in the week, where I thought for sure Kelsey would get a touchdown in that game. And then we would see, we would get the answer. Is he coming back? Is he retiring? What are his plans moving forward? We all kind of wanted a finality, not all of us necessarily, but a lot of us wanted to see a finality there, and in other words, in an otherwise nothing game because of the absence of Mahomes. And yeah, it turned out to be a competitive game, low scoring and what have you, but so much of it in the end turned into, all right, this is it, Kelsey's last drive. And sure enough, that they tried throwing him the ball and he caught a couple of passes and what have you. Unfortunately, we didn't get that moment that really could have made that game special. Where, obviously the ultimate would have been if Kansas City had scored on the last play of the game to get within one, and then they
go for two to Kelsey.
They go for two to Kelsey with one of their flip it forward plays or one of their crazy, and then he scores, and then we see what happens. I can almost assure you he had something scripted, and unfortunately, and then of course now after the game's over, now he has to answer all the questions. Is this it for you? How nostalgic was this? La da da. And he can't really answer it. He doesn't want to say at this point that was it, and he doesn't want to go out on this note. But I don't know. I don't think he's coming back, and I just kind of wish that he had, even though he didn't have that shining moment at the very end of the platform. He did get the opportunity to say afterward that, that this is it. He could have even said beforehand, but, that would have kind of ruined the theatrics of it. Yeah, I just thought, we don't even know if this was his last game, but yet the way it was played on TV, that last drive was like, okay, you're watching history here. Did we really watch history?
Right.
We saw a bad team with a third string quarterback throw the ball, through the goalposts on the big play of the game. Boy, that's great history there. So I don't know, that to me was disappointing.
All right.
And then the best part about it, I guess, was that the game didn't go into overtime, because then if you flipped over, and granted it was really late, past midnight in Chicago and New York, where you live. But if you flipped over to the end of the Denver, Minnesota basketball game, oh my goodness, you talk about an incredible finish, and not just because of one shot. The end of regulation, the incredible shot that Edwards hit. We go into overtime. The Minnesota goes up by 9 points. It's like, oh my goodness, Denver's going to lose this game. And then Jokic, puts on a Superman act. Just give me the ball, and I'll shoot 30-footers and make them all, and we'll win. Don't worry about it. Incredible. ending to that game. And so, if the Kansas City game had gone into overtime, maybe we missed that. So,
wow. Oh, yeah.
Well,
actually, I flipped over when the game ended, and they were like in the second quarter. I was like, man, this game's going to go on for a while.
Yeah.
So I went to sleep. Oh, wow. That's how
right.
that game ended? Wow. I'll have to look at that.
Oh, man. Incredible ending. I mean,
I love Joker.
Yeah. Denver's winning the whole time at the end. And, of course, Denver's down 3 guys, right? They got 3 starters who are injured, and yet they're going to win this game. And then Edwards takes over at the end, and there's actually some fun, kind of stuff you never see in an NBA game. And Edwards always seems to be in the middle of it, and then he's always innocently, "Oh no, I didn't do anything." So Jokic goes to the line at the end of regulation. I think, although it might have been overtime. No, I don't know which one. But anyway, I think it was regulation, and he was shooting 2 free throws, and Denver's ahead. And just as he gets the ball before he's going to shoot it, Edwards goes up to him and slaps the ball. It's like, what the heck was that? It's like, you got to get a technical for that. And and Jokic is like, where's the whistle? You can't. I'm shooting these important free throws. The guy can't come and slap the ball.
Yeah.
And then Denver, there's this wild back and forth, and this is at the end of regulation. And Minnesota cuts it to 5. They cut it to 3. They foul. They cut it to 2. They foul. And then Denver, Minnesota scores, I don't know, in the final 20 seconds. And Jokic grabs the ball to go inbound, and he takes a step out of bounds, and Edwards had gone out of bounds and taking the basket. And he's out of bounds, and he slaps the ball away from Jokic, as he's attempting to inbound the pass while standing out of bounds. It's like, this guy's gone nuts, And then this time they call him for a technical, and then Denver goes down, and Murray shoots the free throws, and then and then Edwards makes this incredible shot out of the corner. I mean, that was just the end of regulation. Then Edwards ends up getting a second technical. He's ejected from the game, and I wish I could.
So he was hot tempered the whole time, basically.
Yeah, right. Well, he's hot tempered a lot, but he's got that kind of that wry smile, like, I'm not a bad guy. I'm just having a good time, But there was a couple of very important plays at the end of overtime where Denver's rallied, and now they've tied it up, or they've taken the lead. And then they throw this pass to Jokic by midcourt, and Gobert steals it from him, and Jokic grabs his arm. And I thought, oh man, this is going to be one of those breakaway fouls. Minnesota's going to end up winning this game anyway. And then Denver challenges the call, and they overturn it. They call a foul on Gobert, and Denver gets the ball back, and then they're scoring again. And then there's another play where Minnesota's pressing him in desperation in the final seconds. And they throw it to Jokic, and he turns around, and he runs right into a Minnesota guy, and he throws the ball away, and they call a foul on the Minnesota guy. And then Edwards, you can see him, they show him on TV. I don't know exactly what he said, but he pointed to the crowd, and he said, this is 5 against 8, or, yeah, I knew we'd never win this game. The NBA, he just said something along the line of, this game is fixed. There's no way we can win this game. And then they gave him a second technical, and they threw him out. But it was just and then, like I said, in all that happening, and at the same time, Minnesota was in overtime now falls behind by 9 points, and Denver falls behind by 9 points. They can't do anything right, and then Jokic, like I said, just give me the ball, 30 feet from the basket. And it was one of those shots, it was still probably 2.5 minutes ago, where if he had missed it, you would say, why the desperation? But he made it, and then the next time down, he makes another one just like it. And it's like, oh man, you got to be kidding me. They're right back in this thing. And then, of course, they end up winning. So, it's it's a December game, and in the end, it'll go down as meaningless. You look at Jokic's final, numbers, 50 some odd points and 15 rebounds and 15 assists or whatever he had. They go down and generally as a meaningless game. But man, you got to watch the last probably 2 minutes of regulation and overtime, because it was just several things happened in there. Like I said, it was, had to be 1:30, closing in on 2:00 where you lived when this happened. Fascinating stuff.
And I'll have to take a look at that. I'm interested to see that last at least 8 minutes of regulation, or overtime and regulation, the 3 minutes up to it or so. Thursday football, a couple more little things. And I'll say most gamblers, and I'll explain what I mean about that in a minute. And if you look at this from a perspective of sports book against wagerer or sports better against sports book, I guess would be the better way to put it. It's hard to think that it wasn't a bloodbath and that the sports better didn't get their heads chopped off for the most part yesterday. You had 2 unders. You had 3 underdogs cover. And basically any superstar prop you wanted to lean with. St. Brown, Gibbs, CeeDee Lamb. I mean, they're, for the most part, a disappearing act. Kelsey, as you mentioned, that people wanted to bet on him to get a touchdown. So it's hard to imagine the sports better having a great day, and I think it's slaughter probably on the sports book's behalf. Have any comment on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think the only positive out of all of that for against the house would have been that in the very first game, you've got Washington who's doing so poorly, and you've got Dallas, and I got to believe when Dallas plays, they're one of those teams that gets 60% of the action, no matter who they're playing,
right,
because they've got so many fans. And so they find a way to win that game. And then, the last 2 games, I don't know how you could have made money on those games, even if you thought, oh, Kansas City, they're terrible. They can't do anything right. They got blown out by Tennessee last week. They find a way to cover against Denver. The Detroit game was terrible. And of course, yesterday was a big day for fantasy football. I said yesterday, I'm talking about Thursday. Big day for fantasy football in that in most leagues, it's the first of
right,
the 2-leg and finals
of the championship. Yep.
And like you said, pretty much no matter who you had in the lineup, you walk away kicking yourself like, oh man, why did I go with him? Even though these are guys, some of the top players in the league who have done it for you all year. With one real exception, and that is, of course, of all guys, my favorite player, Aubrey, the Dallas kicker, has a monster game, even though he missed a 58-yard field
right,
goal that really could have had a big game.
Right.
But that was the first game on the board. It's your kicker. You're not expecting much. I'm sorry, it was first game on the board. And it's your kicker, and you're not expecting much, and he has this big day, and you're thinking, oh man, this is my year, I'm rolling. And then here comes Goff and Gibbs and St. Brown and Jefferson and any number of guys, and even Kelsey, like you said, Worthy. There's just nobody did anything in those last 3 games, and now you walk away saying the person who had the most guys playing on Thursday has probably put themselves in a nice hole. But fortunately, there's still a week and a half, the rest of this week and next week to dig out of that hole. But what looked like a great day if you had Aubrey on your team, turned into a very disappointing day if you had 2 or 3 other guys.
Okay, let me run this ticket by you. As I said, most gamblers, and that doesn't necessarily include me. And if you need to make some money back, maybe this is the time to tune into the show because a little bit of the golden horseshoe maybe up the butt there. But here's this, and I'll talk about the props in a minute because this is the time of the year. I think you got to pull the plug on greediness a little bit. We'll talk about the props in general going forward here in a minute, just because of the circumstances, the fact that a lot of these games will not mean much. Some of these teams are taking their players and taking a more NBA proactive action in sitting some guys who are questionable. We've already seen it with Achan. We've seen it with Jacobs. We've seen it with Barkley. Get these guys out of the game. So if you're trying to do things like 2 touchdowns and excessive yards, you're just not going to get there. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But I did, and I do this every week, and I did a kind of the second, third tier player touchdown for a round robin. So box A, and I did one from every game yesterday, except the Lions game, I did 2. And then we have 1 guy left over for Sunday. So box A, the Cowboys game, I took Turpin because my boy Flournoy was out, figuring that it's either going to be Turpin or Tolbert to fill in that role. I went with the guy who can run kicks back, and that theory, in essence, kind of paid off because that long touchdown was almost like a kick. Once he found some space, he was gone. So box number 1, Turpin checks it. I figured the Lions game would be the highest scoring game of the 3, thinking that the Lions would at least do their share a little bit on offense. St. Brown traditionally does good against Flores and the Vikings defense, except they were exceptional yesterday. They were the best unit on the field by far of maybe any of the units was the Vikings defense that we saw yesterday. So I figured there would be the most points in that game, and I went ahead and took a player from each one. I took on the Detroit side because I wanted to stick with that second or third tier motif. I took our guy Tesla for a touchdown, and then the golden horseshoe comes into play because the guy I had on Minnesota not taking Jefferson and knowing that the Detroit secondary has real bad issues covering that number 2. So I took Addison as the other guy. So that double reverse end around where he's sprinting down the sideline, just begging, please make it, because in the real world, he goes out of bounds on the 1 yard line.
Right.
And screws me. But he makes it, and he does an incredible dive to get that ball across the pylon. I mean, you can't take – that's as good as it gets when you dive for the pylon and sneak that ball in there. I mean, he barely got a quarter of that ball over there, and that was great. The next pick I took, I'm kind of leaned on the theory of, some of these quarterbacks, they're still younger, and a big important game for them, they're going to take off with their feet a little bit. And Bo Nix was my pick for the late game. And now at this point, you're looking back, and there's not any touchdowns being scored after Nix gets his. And you're just like, man, I really did pick out of this really small pool of players 4 guys to score. So at that point, we're a winner because this is a round robin. And the player left that we have is Kyle Williams, the wide receiver for New England, who's looking more and more attractive. This could be the revenge of the $25,000 loss almost in the way. I mean, the grand payout on the jackpot here is at this point is $9,200, unless I settle out of court for a little bit, which we'll discuss here in a second. But Williams is going to certainly be a target because Mac Hollins looks like he might not go. Booty has a concussion. We might not see him. Demario Douglas limited in practice. So the wide receiver core for the Patriots are banged up. He's thrown Williams 3 touchdowns, but he's looking very, very attractive at this point. So first of all, we'll talk business in a second. But what are your thoughts on that ticket?
Amazing. That's my thoughts. Because like you said, it would be one thing if those 3 games on Thursday were all 35-31 and there were 5, 6, 7 touchdowns in all of those games, and so yeah, you plucked 4 guys out of the blue, but then again, there were 20 guys who scored touchdowns, so picking 4 out of those 20 was nothing. No, fact is there were almost no touchdowns scored in those games, and yet you found the guy who scored the 1 or 2 touchdowns. That certainly the last 2 games, only had like a couple of touchdowns. So that's some amazing pickings there.
All right, so
no pun intended.
Right. So the deal is when you have a player from each team, in the round robin, when you put it in, it's almost like you have 2 separate round robin tickets. You have one with the one player from the one team, and then all the other guys you still have with the one player from the other team. So in essence, like a Tesla, Addison, and let's use Turpin for the first game. I have all 3, but that's not a 3-game parlay winner.
Right.
What I have now is I'm sitting on deck for 2 different 3-game parlay winners if I could check the next box. So that's what happens with Knicks. And the cash out offer on the 3-game parlays, the total payout, and this is altogether a $20 bet, I think. So the total payout, if all the 3-game parlays hit with my player Kyle Williams on Sunday, was $1,200. They were offering me $791. If no one scores the rest of the way, I'm probably only going to get about $400. So I figure they're offering me double the money already. I'm going to guarantee myself at least a nice little chunk. And I thought that was an easy cash out right there. The next question comes into play. The 5-game parlay, which does include the players for both teams, because they will give you the jackpot of the 5, pays out about $5,800. They're only offering me $900, so that's an easy. I'm not touching that one. We got to go for the gold there. But the other one would be the 2 4-game parlays, which obviously I don't have either of those hit either. I just have the 2 separate tickets with 3 waiting to check the 4th box. They're offering me $800. The payout is $2,500. Kyle Williams is plus $350. I can take that payout if I want, and then I'm kind of guaranteeing myself a nice $1,550, $1,600 payday. Or I can just let it rip, keep the $700 that I got, knowing that's a nice small win regardless of the scenario, and then try to really hit it home. And that's going to be, like $8,300 or so of Kyle Williams. So what do you think I should do? You think I should cash out, claim $1,500 at the end of the day, $1,600, whatever it is, or stay at the 700 and then play for the 8,300? If I cash out and take this money, I'll just be playing for 5,900. What do you think?
My feeling is, I wouldn't want to go away empty-handed, right? After all this great work that you've done, and you're not going to go away empty-handed. You already put something in your pocket, and so that being the case, I'd go for it because it's a good matchup.
Yes.
For all the reasons you've already stated, and so and that's nice. I mean, it's what you'd consider to be a long shot based on the odds that they're offering. But yeah, I think it's a very nice price for in this kind of game. So that's a positive there. Also, secondly, 10 years from now, I may not be alive anymore, but you probably will be. You're going to want to be talking about this day.
Right.
Talk about this great thing that you did on Christmas of the 2025. And if you bail on it, and it ends up hitting, it's going to be a sore subject for you to bring up every time. Now, if you stick with it, even if it loses, it's going to be a nice talking point
Right.
for you down the line. But if it happens to hit, oh man, you're going to get way more than just some money in your pocket in the end. You're going to get some bragging rights that nobody out there has. So, those two things combined, I've protected myself by taking a little, but I'm also keeping my the options open for the possibility open for having this very, very memorable outcome. I'd say you got to go for it.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing where you print off the ticket and frame it and put it on the wall.
Right.
Okay.
But it only goes up if it wins.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
It only
You
goes
don't
up.
want to frame the ticket that shows. Right. The last thing you want to do is frame the ticket that shows I cashed out and cost myself. No. That's that picture goes in the garbage can.
And honestly, I think I have a better feeling about staying in if it does hit. I think that soothes the $25,000 loss on the sweep of the division. It's a good amount. I mean, almost to the amount of if I just started hedging with Buffalo to guarantee a modest profit, almost in a way, right? But take a different route.
That was I don't know. I would not have done what you did there, but I'm much more conservative than you. So, like I said, I wouldn't do this either if it were an all or nothing thing. But it's not an all or nothing thing because you've already cashed out part of a ticket there.
Right. No, and I did not hedge with Buffalo. I took the loss. Right. Okay.
Right.
All right. How about what I said about props going forward? It just seems to me there's a little bit of an NBA mindset here on some of these players. Time to pull the plug. I mean, we see with Jaden Daniels, obviously. It's time to pull the plug. Let's sit him for the year. You can almost call it the they were doing it before Wemby, but the Wemby status or whatever. It's Joel Embiid is the king of this. Let's be honest. So almost the Joel Embiid mentality among some of these coaches. Let's rest this player. We don't need him, and that makes I think the props sketchy here these last 2 weeks. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that makes sense to me, especially the way this season is playing out. I would have expected at this point that there would be a lot more games like the Jacksonville Indy game, where they're not pulling anybody out of that game. They've got to play everybody for 60 minutes in that game, and so you get a nice, honest effort there. But a lot of these other games, you talked about the New England game against the Jets as being a classic example of a game where, okay, you've got your MVP quarterback, you've got a star running back who's had a concussion, who may or may not play. But if they clear him to play, do you really expect him to be in the game in the middle of the third quarter when they're ahead by 3 touchdowns? Or do you expect the quarterback to be in the game much longer than that? And so there's, I even fear this in the Baltimore Green Bay game,
Yes.
where if Jackson doesn't play and Baltimore's fallen behind in that game, and Green Bay's got several guys banged up, including Love. How much is he going to play late in the game? How much are they going to even throw the ball late in the game if they get a lead? I mean, there's a lot of games like that, unfortunately, this week that make them very, risky propositions. So I agree with you. I just think that priority one this week is figuring out who's going to be playing in the fourth quarter. I mean, if you can't, if you're going to be taking a guy to score 2 touchdowns, chances are you're going to need one, late in the game. And so, I want to make sure my guy's even on the field if I'm going to take that risk. So that's definitely a part of the handicapping.
And a lot of these numbers are in past seasons at the end of the year. We might not even get numbers for some of these people. I'll be interested to see what we come across today. And I don't think the worst strategy is this either. Is look, instead of playing overs on the props, let's play some unders, right? play 4 or 5, 6 different things that you might be able to predict. I think a Josh Jacobs under 56.5 rushing yards is probably a great bet this week, to be honest. Get on the field, Josh, and get on out of there by the second quarter when the Packers are up 14-0. And I'll take that one home. So let's do this. Let's talk the 2 Saturday games. Let's incorporate the Pittsburgh game with this, because we'll kind of break down what happens, what could happen either way, as the Steelers could pull the plug themselves if all goes wrong with Baltimore. So we'll talk about the Steelers in this segment. We'll cut the tape, and then we'll hit the Sunday slate. How does that sound?
Good.
All right. First game, I think, is a good one on Saturday. It is a rematch of the playoff game we saw last year, in which it was a tale of 2 halves. The Chargers were dominant at Houston until they flipped the switch and got completely dominant on the Chargers, and I think forced, 5 Justin Herbert interceptions that day. So the Houston defense is nothing new here. We've seen it back here for a few years now, and last year they turned it on when they had to in the playoffs. Now, the Chargers, they have a good defense as well. So this might be one of those games that a good old, it almost reminds me of a good old Jim Harbaugh Big Ten football game almost in a way. Let's run and bludgeon each other a little bit, and we'll see who kind of shakes it out and makes the plays to win at the end. But we saw how good Herbert was last week against the Cowboys, so much so that Harbaugh called him Picasso, and that was a very, very nice performance. Houston, after dominating the prior week, struggled with the Raiders. So they showed how they can be vulnerable too, and they were lucky to kind of get out of there on their home field with a win. The Chargers are at home for this one, and I think I like the Chargers, and I want to say that this should be a lower scoring game because of the defenses. The Chargers need this. They're locked into the playoffs, but they could still potentially win this division. So we'll get their full effort. And obviously, Houston's in the dogfight that they are to try to take the AFC South. Should be a good game overall. I feel like the Chargers are a 3-point winner here. I feel like the spread should be 3, not 1.5. Maybe that's why I do like the Chargers laying that measly 1.5. But if I'm going to take the Chargers, the right thing to do is just take the money line minus 126. Prop wise, I mean, I had Quentin Johnston last week. I don't know. I just don't think I'm interested in taking players on either side in this one, knowing that it could be nip and tuck. So I think a good game. Chargers probably edge it out. These two teams could easily see each other again. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a tough game to pick. And like you said, these are 2 good defensive teams, especially Houston's an outstanding defensive team. And they're very, very difficult to run the ball on. And not that that's going to stop the Chargers because they're mostly a passing team. But I love the fact that Johnston last week kind of reemerged. He was having a great season. He disappeared for a while. Now he's come back. I don't know. I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game, but I do think the potential is there for some fireworks in the passing game. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were a couple of, of a Johnston, ended up getting a 56 or 60-yard touchdown catch in a game like this. Maybe even Houston, Collins, or one of their speedy guys gets one as well. But in a game where I think 20-17 to me is about as top end a score as I would see. Kind of reminds me of one of the Thanksgiving games. If there's not a whole lot of scoring being done, then don't force it. So it's probably be a good game to take everybody, all the big name games, guys on the under in their props. So I'm going to pass on this game.
Yeah, we just talked about taking some unders. This could be a good place to start with a couple and test out that theory and see how it works. I agree with you. 20-17 Chargers pays 45-1.
Yeah, now that is something that, we just talked about not being greedy this weekend. And here we go. First play we're talking about
Right.
taking a 45-1 shot. But yes, that's something that I would look at in a game like this. Where, all right, you know what? I want interest in the game without too much of a risk. And 20-17 just sounds like a real, it's got to be like the most popular, maybe 24-17, the most popular NFL score of all time. And they're giving you 45-1. Okay, I'll start my day Saturday with taking a shot with that.
Chubb, I mean, you never know if Chubb's ever going to play or not. He's 5-1 for a touchdown.
He was very disappointing.
Yeah.
I expected him to do big things last week against the Raiders. Turns out they barely used him, half the time.
Right.
And I don't really see a whole lot happening on the ground in this game. As much as each of these teams would like to establish a running game, maybe that opens up something in the passing game eventually. I just don't see that as being a good strategy. If I were these teams, I'd come out winging it because that's your only hope. But you're throwing into the teeth of a good pass defense as well. And like you said, we don't want a repeat of what happened last year in the playoffs by throwing the ball too much if you're the Chargers. So,
right.
There'll be better games to discuss.
I'll give you one I would take a chance on the over with. And Keenan Allen at 33.5. Old, dependable. He's kind of the second or third, maybe even fourth option there. That's a player that might make sense if you have to have it over. And talking about disappearing acts, we haven't said Rondé Gadsden's name in forever.
No. Well, the Chargers are not, they're a good passing team, but they're not one of these teams that are going to throw the ball 40 to 50 times most games. When you've got Johnston and you've got McConkey and you've got Allen, they throw the ball to their backs. Well, you're not going to throw the ball to your tight end, on a consistent basis. There's just too many people mouths to feed there.
All right, in this night game, I'm not sure how we handicap this. I mean, because we don't know what we're going to get with Love. If we do, we don't know what we're going to get with Jackson. If we do, we mentioned Brandon Jacobs' name or Josh Jacobs' name already. We don't know what we're going to get with him. If we do, we look like we're going to have some bad weather as well. 4.5, 40.5. I think this is an under the total game. Makes perfect sense, especially if the injuries do play out and we do see some backups involved. This 40.5 is going to be way too high. And the Packers at this point, with Detroit falling out, they may have lost a lot of interest in this game. They might just be looking to play this and get the heck out of there. So maybe even the backup running back might be the play overall. Emmanuel Wilson, 29.5 yards. Maybe that's the over you want to attack in this game. But I'm not sure on like anything else here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that trying to figure out who's pulling the plug the earliest in this game, probably isn't going to get you far. And you don't know who's going to quarterback it. I think Green Bay's in a lot better shape. I think Love's a lot, much more likely to play than Jackson. I think that Green Bay has much more incentive to play well, even though technically, like you said, it doesn't mean, they're going to make the playoffs anyway, but they're still jockeying for position. And if Baltimore shows up and they're just totally disinterested, this could turn out to be a very easy win for Green Bay. It's hard to predict who's playing, who's showing up, who really cares about this game. Another case where the game looked great on the schedule when they scheduled it, 6 months ago, turns out to be a pretty dud.
Yeah, on Saturday night. we'll all be watching anyway because it's NFL football. All right, so under the total there. How about Wilson? Would you even take a chance on him?
I don't. I mean, I just don't know what kind of game is going to materialize.
Right.
I mean, if both teams, if all of a sudden Jackson and Love are both out there to start the game, and then it's like, whoa, this has turned into a real game, then no, I wouldn't have any interest in him. Because I would think that Jacobs, would be would be running the ball. I would think they, I love the fact that Watson came back and looked healthy last week. He's a guy that if I was picking one guy to score a touchdown in this game, I would go with him because one reason being that if it comes down to a second string quarterback, well, Willis actually looks pretty good. Willis can throw that, can move the ball down the field in the passing game. Baltimore's defense is much worse than Green Bay's. I got to believe that Green Bay, will find a way, even if Willis is in their quarterback, to throw a couple of touchdown passes in this game. And if so, then Watson would be that guy. But like I said, I don't know. I don't know. Let me watch the game for 5 minutes, then I'll have a better idea. Unfortunately, they don't let you do that.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, we can buy in live. One guy I would keep my eye on though, especially if this game plays out to almost be a dud for both sides. Look out for this kid, Rashid Ali, 14-1 for a touchdown.
He certainly put himself on the map the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. So I would at least keep an eye out for that, maybe. It wouldn't hurt if you have to have some action on the game. A Rashid Ali and an Emmanuel Wilson touchdown. If this looks like a dud type of game, we'll pay 54-1.
Oh, nice.
All right.
If I did anything in this game, I'm going to take Watson for a touchdown.
All right. Watson for a touchdown is at plus 210. So still a good number right there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's assume Baltimore wins, and that forces the hand for Pittsburgh to keep winning. They're laying 3 on the road here, 34.5. I think they've lost the last 6 at Cleveland, which is amazing to hear that, to be honest. Maybe it's 5 out of 6. I'd have to double check that. And we'll get a full green light with Rodgers and all that, if that's the case. So do you like anything here with Pittsburgh if Baltimore wins?
Well, I don't know. Just knowing the way that, Pittsburgh is coached, I got to believe that they're taking this game very seriously. I don't think they want to throw back any of the momentum that they have. They've been playing very well lately, coming off a really good game last week. Now they've got, they've lost Metcalf, obviously, but Warren looked incredible last week, and then the amount that they used him and throwing him the ball, kind of what I projected at the beginning of the year. And maybe he's had a better year than I give him credit for. But I really thought he was going to be one of the top backs, given the way Rodgers plays quarterback. But he seems to be settling into that kind of a role. And I think if Cleveland's had much more problems stopping the run than stopping the pass, I don't think they're going to put Rodgers in harm's way, having him drop back with Cleveland's pass rush coming at him and him being basically an immobile target. So I think we'll get a whole lot of Warren in this game. I think even if Pittsburgh's in a position where, okay, they've clinched their playoff spot, I still think that they're going to try to win this game. Now, does that mean that, they're going full 4 quarters? I think Cleveland's competitive enough that if Pittsburgh's going to win this game, they're going to have to play deep into the second half in order to make that happen. And that's, another good sign for Warren. And I think that, he's my man in this game.
All right, let's see. Warren has no props yet. Let's see. Touchdown score, Jalen Warren, plus 230.
Well, I can see.
That's not the worst.
I can see where they want to be conservative putting numbers up on these games because, like we're guessing who's playing, who cares, who's showing up, who's playing late in the game. Well, that's the last thing the house wants to have to play guessing games like that. That's where they, really get screwed by somehow, some way, information getting out that, if Baltimore loses, then they're not even going to play Warren, take all his unders or whatever it is. And so I can understand the conservative nature of putting the numbers up late on him. But when they do pop, I think he's a guy who's, I'd look at all of his numbers, including catches, including, rushing yards. But 230 for a TD is nice as well, especially now when A, you got a quarterback who isn't going to run the ball in, and B, he's lost his top tight end, his top passing touchdown target.
Right. Yeah.
And so that, you would think that moves Warren either to the top or near the top of the pecking order of we're going to go to him at the goal line.
I was going to say, now that you remind me of DK, I see Aaron Rodgers over 1.5 touchdown passes plus 178. If the hand is forced for him to play a decent amount, I was going to say that's not the worst price in the world, but yeah, you got to rethink that with DK a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that there's far less reason for them to be throwing the ball at all in this game, let alone down by the goal line where you've just lost your top target, and they don't really have a second pass catching target among their wideouts. Freiermuth, I guess, would become the most logical tight end, to score a touchdown, the most logical tight end to catch a touchdown pass down by the goal line if you're not talking about Warren. But, if your options are, let's drop back with our quarterback, put him at risk, or let's just swing it out to Warren or hand the ball to Warren, I think you go the conservative route. So that's why I like Warren in this game.
How about Rodgers under 29.5 pass attempts?
That seems like an awfully low number, but I like the thinking there. That I just think that Pittsburgh. I mean, I just don't understand why they would come out winging it. Now, if he ends up swinging the ball to his backs 10 different times, Gainwell, gets 8 targets. Well, then, maybe that screws you in the end. But I think that. I mean, if I took a side on that, I would take the under. Plus, you also have, you have the possibility that they get a nice lead in this game and they decide to pull them for the fourth quarter.
All right. Cutting the tape. Oh, here we go. That helps a little bit. We'll get Nephew Dave on board here in a minute. Special thanks to Dave Dill Grandy again. Good picks from him, and we'll get him. Tomorrow for the full NFL slate of the Sunday action. So I do have some tickets rotating on the screen, and if we are going to do an art of making the tickets type of deal, then let's stick to something I just mentioned. And that is the totals in the games and maybe avoiding props. Now, the theory is this, again, if you're just tuning in, is we are late in the season. You have more of the NBA mindset mentality of the Joel Embiid type of theory in which, you sit some of these players, you rest them if you're banged up, you get them out of the game early. So there's a lot of question marks about who can actually go over and who can't. If you want to take a player over, make sure that the game matters from start to finish. That would be number one for the most part. There is one game that does apply on the slate tomorrow, in which the two teams in question are teams that don't have anything left to play for, but it's not like they had anything left to play for the whole season. And they're playing each other, which you almost want them to play somebody else. But I'm talking about Tennessee and the Saints. Two teams clearly who have not packed it in. They've been getting wins lately. They've been showing up on a week-to-week basis and actually competing. So stuff like that's good. You want teams that are going to be out there actually competing, not just kind of trying to fill in pieces, handing it off like it's a preseason game in which some of these better playoff teams are likely to do tomorrow. I mean, how much are we really going to get Philly and Buffalo on the field together, right? That is not a game you want to take Hurts for 2 touchdowns, Josh Allen for 2 touchdowns. Now, who knows? Maybe that's actually what happens, and I'm the stupid one, but I'll be more willing to think that some of these guys are going to get a little bit of a break, not trying to get these guys all banged up here at the end of the season. I mean, you want to keep these guys fresh for playoffs, so getting them out of the game early in a situation that really doesn't matter. I mean, at this point in the season, I just don't think there's any room for taking those kind of players on their over their totals. I mean, if anything, on those kind of scenarios, I think you want to play unders from here on out. Because, again, how much is Josh Allen actually going to play if the Patriots clinch the division? What do the Eagles necessarily have to play for? Some jockeying in the playoff picture, right? Maybe a little bit. They have their division clinched. I mean, can they necessarily win out? I mean, it just seems like in a lot of ways that things are basically decided. We're going to have some seeding changes for sure. But is that, if you're known to just kind of be playing that first week anyway, and maybe you get the one home game guaranteed if you're the Eagles, I mean, are you going to have Saquon Barkley out there for the whole game? I just don't think that you are. So stuff like that, with him for 2 touchdowns, I think you have to definitely throw it out the window. I mean, a game like Carolina and Seattle, sure. Go for that because both of those teams kind of need to win. I think that's a game with open props. Tampa Bay side of things, for sure. I mean, they're a team that needs to have it, their open game for their props. I mean, another freelancing game in terms of what I just mentioned with Tennessee and the Saints, although they're out of it and they actually care, kind of, and they've been competing and getting wins. I think you got to be able to throw Arizona and the Bengals on that category as well. The Burrow's going to want to put on some sort of a show for the home fans. The Cardinals come out and throw the ball all over the place anyway. So I think you still have a green light in that kind of game. I don't know. If Baltimore loses tonight, how much interest do the Steelers have? Right? Yeah, I mean, you might get Aaron Rodgers out there for a little bit, but you're not going to get him out there for a lot of it. And taking an under on the Aaron Rodgers pass attempts or something like that is probably a legit way to go. So use your brain in terms of who may or may not play. Maybe even just scratch a lot of those off the list right off the bat. Really pick your spots in specifics about guys who have to have it, teams that have to have it, or at least teams that will compete for you for the whole 60 minutes. And if you want to play some overs with those guys, albeit, go for it. But some unders might not be the worst play in the world either. I think we're going to get some natural under games anyway because of the weather. We saw 2 games going under the other day with the Detroit and the Kansas City game. As these guys jockey for position, then the plug may be pulled on some guys at some point. Josh Jacobs tonight. I mean, is he really going to play a whole game? We've seen him exit the game the last couple of games early. So why would that not be the case again, especially if Green Bay's winning? So do you really want to be on the side of him over? No, probably not. All right, so use your brain. maybe attack some unders concerning that sort of strategy. All right, nephew Dave, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
How are you doing today? You excited for 2 games on this Saturday?
It's something to watch in my mind. There should be 2 good games here. We got the Texans and Chargers up first. That should be a really good game. 40.5 might just be way too much in that game. There's 2 good defenses going at it there. And then the Ravens and Packers, both teams really have to have it. So that should be interesting as well. I think the Pack probably pulls that one out.
They have to have it. Lamar Jackson is going to be the one big question I don't have the answer to right now, whether he's going to be in or not. We know that there's not going to be any Jordan Love, but Willis has been decent, at least at relief. And, yes, interesting how that game may just play out overall. You feel like the Ravens are almost a dead man walking type of team right now, even though they have a chance to make it into the playoffs. You almost get the feel that tidal wave is just going against them, and everything might work out for Green Bay's favor tonight. At least that's just kind of the gut feeling I get. We'll look at both of these games, and I think it's fair to say neither one would be a survivor pick, right?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, so we'll save that for tomorrow. Starting with this first game, I do like the under in this game, like you said. I'm going to really be limited here. I'm not invested on betting unders in this game because it matters. And this game could fly off the shelf like it did in the playoffs last year. But you got to remember it went off the hinges because a lot of the turnovers involved. You got to remember that Herbert had 5 interceptions. I mean, what is the likelihood that sort of thing's going to happen again this evening? So it isn't likely to me. I think you get more of a straight up clean game. We were talking with Bill Grandy and kind of joking that like 20-17 almost sounds like the perfect score. I like the Chargers at home myself in a lower scoring game. So is that what you like?
I like, you know what? I actually like the Texans on the road in a lower scoring game.
Right. I think it's a coin toss, to be honest, either way.
Oh, it really is.
But I'll favor the Chargers.
And,
if I got to pick a team, I'll take the home team.
Yeah, it's a coin flip. I'll go on the flip side of that coin with Houston on the road. And honestly, Steve, this is a game to me where you just play the under and maybe pair it with something because, I'm just throwing it out there. We have a ton of hockey today. So there's some other stuff to look at. And I think if you just play the straight under here, well, let's not get cute here. I know we have a cast of characters that can score, and you're getting decent prices for all of them today. They're all plus money. I just like these defenses, Steve. I think you go under 40.5 and pair it with some hockey stuff is the way I'm going to attack this one.
Yeah, most of the hockey games are tonight too, which is somewhat shocking. Usually they do a full day slate of hockey, but they're really giving these guys the ultimate rest off where most of the action hits on this evening on the ice. I think there's one game that starts before 7:00 this evening. I think that's like a 5:00 game if I'm correct. But our Capitals will be on. I'll be looking forward to that. There is one receiving over I am going to take a shot on here. In fact, I almost want to take a shot on 2 of these guys. I can make an argument maybe for Keenan Allen because part of me hates the incentive angle, but this is a kind of guy where in this kind of game, it makes sense to have a possession receiver such as Allen to get his 4 or 5 catches. And he's at 33.5 yards for his baseline. It just doesn't seem like a lot to me. When you got to figure he's at least going to get some opportunity.
I think 26 is his incentive.
Yeah, and 4 catches is a minus 106. The one angle I think I'll take instead of that, though, is I'll just take the speedster because he kind of got into action last week for us, Quentin Johnston. And he's at, he's going to get a long ball, at least 34.5. So that's one catch for him, maybe even two. And I'll throw him on some sort of a round robin going into the rest of the weekend on his receive yards. So Quentin Johnston is someone I'll start a new ticket with. Aronde Gadsden has done nothing. He's done a complete disappearing act the second half of the season. Dalton Schultz has emerged halfway decent. It's not like Jaden Higgins is blowing the doors off of anything. I say Trey Harris, he hasn't done much. Christian Kirk has done nothing. He'd be an interesting player maybe if you wanted to start an under ticket, take an under Christian Kirk receiving yards. Amarian Hampton, 10.5. I just don't want to mess with anything under on these kind of guys. In fact, I would lean in the Amarian Hampton, Woody Marks ticket. That's actually not the worst angle in the world. Let's see what we're getting for those guys all together. Because you're going to get a good payout. Marks for 25 receiving is plus 450. And Hampton for 25 yards receiving is plus 350. So you're actually getting about 19-1 on that ticket. Just to get two guys to get 25 yards receiving. And that's how you beat a good defense, is that your quarterbacks rush it or your running backs get out and catch out the balls out of the flat. Justin Herbert baseline rushing is at 24.5, and Stroud is at 12.5. It matters for both of these teams, so I think their rushing numbers are completely fair game too, to be honest. So if you wanted to stretch those up, I don't think the worst angle in the world. And this is the beauty of this show, because as much as I've talked about these games, I just really haven't looked at these angles, but that is just old school gambling train of thought here, where the game matters and the ball's in the hands of the quarterback. He's going to make some things happen with his legs. And Herbert's done that plenty. Stroud, just to get 12.5, doesn't seem like it's anything too crazy. So I would lean with the quarterback rushing yards, running back receive yards, knowing that those are achievable. And although they help you move down the field, not necessarily going to blow the doors off for any sort of open. That's more kind of conservative game planning as opposed to aggressive game planning. And that still kind of is something that would lead to clock running and this being a lower scoring game, which I think me and Dave both like. So there's some good angles, I think, from a professional perspective. And we say we like quarterback rushing yards and running back receive yards a lot. But in this game, this particular game with the good two defenses, it really does make sense that that's something that could happen. What do you think about that, Dave?
Yeah, Steve, I think that's a great angle. I completely agree in this game. It just kind of feels like that's how it's going to have to be between these two defenses.
Yep. All right. So we'll both go under there. And then a night game, let's see if I got a Ravens quarterback listed. I do. I got Tyler Huntley. So it looks like we won't get Lamar against Malik Willis. I'm worried about these two, that this game just gets stuck in the mud. That both defenses are going to be better than the offenses. So I lean under in this game as well. And again, if you've been listening to this entire show, we mentioned the unders on Christmas Day and how atrocious of a weekend this has been for the gamblers. I mean, none of the favorites have covered. It's been unders. All these bowl games have been under, and none of these superstars are hitting anywhere close to their props. So a bloodbath in a sense on behalf of the sports book. What's everyone going to generally have tonight? I don't think everyone has the unders. I'll tell you that. Not like everyone's taking the overs, but again, you're winning on under when the game starts. It's the one bet you're winning when the game starts. And I wouldn't be shocked if this is another 20-13 type of game or something like that. I'm just not going to have any respect for Hundley here. His baseline says of his passing, 158.5. And then Malik Willis really isn't much better at 163.5. The conditions tonight at Lambeau are favorable, 37 degrees. So it is above freezing, and no precipitation, limited in that. So weather issues not a concern for these two games. but I'll still lean with the under in this one. Why? Because the double Saturday under makes sense for the sports books to win today. And you know, at the end of the day, and we've said this a million times, it never hurts to be on the side of the sports book. All right, so what do you like in this, Dave?
Yeah, Steve, I'm playing both of these games together in some capacity with some other stuff. But I'm playing them both under 38.5. Yeah, you got the two backups in a game that both of these teams have to have. So kind of a weird matchup there between these two. I just don't know. I think the Packers defense is going to be too much for Huntley. That's just unfortunate for the Ravens being in the spot that they're in, knowing that they have to win. And then they have to have some help, but it starts tonight, and they have to win. And just a tough task to go on the road to Lambeau with Tyler Huntley to beat the Green Bay Packers. Unfortunately, I just don't see it happening. And I see an under 38.5 here in this one, Steve.
All right. 24.5 is the baseline rush for Huntley and 32.5 for Willis. It makes sense that they would both run, but I'm not convinced that either one of these guys are super great runners, to be honest. I think the other two guys are much better runners on a faster track. This is a much slower track. So I'm not going to trust the quarterbacks to rush here. The one angle I would be interested in perhaps is Emmanuel Wilson at over 31.5 on the premise that Josh Jacobs does leave this game or does not play to his full capability. 53.5 is the baseline for Jacobs. And best be assured, if the Packers have a double-digit lead in the second half, I don't think you'll see Jacobs, and you'll get a heavy dose of Emmanuel Wilson. So over 31.5 is going to be an interesting one to me. There has to be some sort of a comfort zone for these quarterbacks too, though, and where you have a number of receivers who could do that for Green Bay, like Watson or Dobbs, or maybe even Jaden Reed gets involved today, or my guy Wicks, who's only at 8.5 receiving yards. Wow. That's the thing. I love Wicks at over 8.5, and I'll probably take him at some point. Do I trust he's going to get one catch? Not at all, to be honest. I'll be priced in at 8.5. But the one I'll look at is this. The tight ends are at a premium for these kind of guys when you are trying to throw the ball. So whereas grossed this out a few times this season and worked at other points, might as well just take Likely again. He's just at 16.5. All you got to do is get him the ball, and he's a big body with some speed. He's bound to be yards after the catch in this scenario if he just gets one ball. So let's look at Likely over 16.5. I'll give you that for an over, Dave.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of snake bitten there with Likely. He really put it to me. Last week I had him for his over yards, and once again it was the one thing that I needed, and he had a big fat 0. So for that I will stay away from him. But I love the Emmanuel Wilson angle that you have, Steve. He's plus 340 to score. I would think about pairing that maybe with a Derrick Henry prop
interesting.
at minus 120.
Yep.
The two running backs get after it. We know Henry's going to be involved, especially with Huntley being in. I think he's going to get a heavy dose. And, if we're not seeing much of Jacobs, we've seen Wilson be more involved here lately. So I love your angle here with him. So I would go with him and Henry in some capacity on a ticket.
All right. If you do Wicks, if you want to get super greedy and just aggressive, it's not like you're asking the world of this. But Wicks for 40 yards and Likely for 40 yards, $10 will pay you $427. So
yeah, not bad.
Not the worst. Sorry, I'm trying to line up the man here, see if he wants to come on for a minute.
It looks, Steve, like the consensus here is 50-50 almost on the total.
Okay. All right.
65% of people have the spread for Green Bay, and then 68 have the money line. It's a cool little thing on the book here I never look at, but it's the percent of bets placed, and it's got the money line spread total, and it kind of tells you what everybody's doing. So take a look at that too.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one. So let me explain a little bit of that as well. So you'll see two different stats usually when you look at that sort of graphic that Dave's talking about. You'll see percentage of bets and you'll see percentage of money. And in some instances, you'll see that, let's just take, for example, this Green Bay Ravens game we're talking about. Actually, let's just take another game. That way I'm not confusing Dave. Let's take the Jets and the Patriots. All right. So you might see 80% of the bets are coming in on the Patriots, but only 65% of the money is coming in on the Patriots. 35% of the money is coming in on the Jets on only 20% of the bets. All right, so follow that and think about that one more time. 80% of the bets on the Patriots, but only 65% of the money put down. Total number of bets versus money. So what that's saying is there's a lot of smaller bets on the Patriots, which indicates that's the general public and the public's money. The big bettors have more money on the Jets than the common player, I don't want to say common player, but the day-to-day amateur gambler. So if all the money's coming in on the Jets, then that is the sharp angle that the professional gamblers like. So you always have to keep that in mind. And when you see something like 80% of the bets and 80% of the money is coming in on a certain team or let's just use the same guys. 95% of the bets on the Patriots, 85% of the money on the Patriots. That tells you that the books are going to get slaughtered if the Patriots cover the spread. And more often than not, the winning side is going to be that Jets in that case. So being on the narrow side with the sports book is never a bad proposition to be in or to put yourself in from the get-go. You know what? If you're on the side of the bookie every time, you're going to win money at the end of the day. Put it that way.
Yep.
All right, Dave, let me do our 2 touchdown sounder and then give me, although I don't have any likely 2 touchdown guys for today, maybe you can pick out the 1 or 2 most likely you would think you would bet on. If you had to have action on the 2 touchdown scores.
20 papers, that's $2 plus 2.
Gee, Johnny, I don't have a dime. Sorry.
Didn't ask for a dime. $2.
I give you 2 and a Rick Flair. It's a jungle out there. You got to look out for number 1, but don't step at number 2.
Utah, give me 2.
And Jimmy 2 times, who got that nickname because he said everything twice, like. I'm
gonna go get the papers.
All right. We like lower scoring games. If you like lower scoring games, we necessarily aren't going for 2 touchdown scores. But what are you thinking here, Dave? If you had to pick 1 or 2 with a gun against your head, what would you do?
Oh, well, if the gun was against my head, I would probably go with Derrick Henry and who else would I go? I would go with probably the 2 running backs in Hampton and Henry. But here's what I would like to do. I would go Nico Collins and Emmanuel Wilson. I just really like that angle for some reason. You're getting a hell of a payout for that, Steve. If you just put a $5 down on Nico and Wilson, your $5 is going to return $2,000.
Yeah, that's a good payout. You're getting 60-1 on Henry and Hampton for 2 touchdowns. I like the angle.
I like that too.
I think Nico in this kind of game is someone who can actually emerge. I'll do a long shot one. I'll go ahead and throw my guy Quentin Johnston on here, and I'll go back to my guy on Green Bay. I'll do Dontavian Wicks for 2. These are both players I've won on tickets before for 2 touchdowns. So why not match them today? And maybe I even throw Huntley on this ticket as well. Wow, I don't have Wicks for 2 listed here. You might. Let me try Wicks for 1 and because he's 9-1 for 1, which is crazy. So Wicks for 1, Johnston for 2, $10 will win you 3,000. That's interesting. Quentin Johnston for 2, and let's throw in Isaiah Likely for 2. Isaiah Likely today is at 100-1 for 2 touchdowns.
Oh, I like that.
$10 wins you $31,000 on Quentin Johnston and Isaiah Likely for 2 touchdowns today. How about that?
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Okay. All right. All right, Dave. That wraps it up for us. I'll see you tomorrow in the studio.
All right. Sounds good. I'll see you then. All right.
All right. Well, we'll stick around for half a second and see if we get the Ant-Man involved here. I'm going to get my dad some food. And we'll go from there. Let's see. The Ant-Man. Well, he's irresponsive. He's driving from Pittsburgh. I know his girls in fantasy championships. They're definitely invested, but they could be, who knows, in the mountains of West Virginia right now with no cell service or whatever. So he hasn't replied to me in 7 minutes. I told him call in 5 minutes. We're basically about there. So we'll go ahead and wrap up the show, and we'll go for tomorrow. I'm going to lean with both the unders. But again, I think I'll take Wicks for 40 yards and Likely for 40 yards. I think I'll take the receiving yards for both running backs in the Charger game and the quarterback rushing yards as well. We'll find some combos of that stuff, and we will hope for the best. All right, we'll be back bright and early tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll go through the course of the morning, and we'll get we'll do a good section on the art of making the tickets tomorrow. But we'll come back to you at the normal time, 7 a.m. We'll go through some early lines and everything, and then we'll prop up Dave Del Grande for another hour or so. And we should be off the air tomorrow by about 11 with the limited amount of games that we have, you would think, or maybe shortly after 11:15. So plenty of time to get some tickets in, and we will have plenty of good angles. I promise you that. We'll review today. We'll see how we do. Let me cue up our house band, the Pie Tasters, and we'll go ahead and get on out of here. So I am Stephen Murray. This is the Round Robin. Click and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Deep End, like the swimming pool, DEEPEND Broadcasting. This is the Round Robin NFL Week 17 Saturday special. We'll come back one more time tomorrow for the rest of the slate. Good luck today, and be safe wherever you are.